The fluorescent lights above the diner buzzed like dying wasps, casting a sickly yellow glow over the cracked vinyl booths and grease-stained countertops. My feet screamed inside my worn sneakers, the same pair I'd been wearing for 8 months now, held together with duct tape and sheer willpower. The smell of burnt coffee and yesterday's meatloaf clung to my uniform, a faded pink dress that no longer buttoned over my swollen belly, 7 months pregnant, and I was still here, still standing, still pretending everything would be okay. I pressed one hand against the small of my aching back, the other balancing a tray of dirty dishes that weighed almost as much as the secret I carried. The baby kicked, hard, right against my ribs, and I had to pause, breathe through the sharp jab of discomfort. Nobody noticed. They never did. To the truck drivers and late-night stragglers who frequented Mel's 24-hour diner, I was invisible. Just another waitress with a name tag and a forced smile. "Order up, Sophia!" Mel's gravelly voice cut through the clatter of plates. I shuffled toward the kitchen window, my movements slow and ungainly. The baby had dropped lower this past week, pressing down on my bladder, making every step a careful negotiation. I was exhausted in a way that sleep couldn't fix. Exhausted in my bones, in my soul, in the parts of me that used to believe in fairy tales and second chances. The night air beyond the diner's smudged windows was thick with August humidity, pressing against the glass like something alive. Rain had been threatening all evening, the sky bruised purple and swollen. Through my reflection in the window, I barely recognized myself anymore. Dark circles shadowed my eyes. My once vibrant auburn hair hung limp around my shoulders. I looked like a ghost of the girl I used to be. The girl he used to want. I shoved the thought away before it could take root. Thinking about him, about Dante, was like pressing on a bruise that never healed. 7 months since I'd walked away, 7 months since I'd discovered what he really was. 7 months of silence. The bell above the diner door chimed. I didn't look up. Just grabbed the coffee pot and headed toward the new customer, my practiced greeting already forming on my lips. "Welcome to Mel's. Coffee to start?" The words died in my throat. Time fractured. The diner sounds, the sizzle of the grill, the clink of silverware, the murmur of tired conversation, faded to white noise. My heart stopped, then started again, too fast, too hard, slamming against my ribs like it wanted to escape. Dante Moretti stood 5 feet away. He looked exactly the same, exactly like the man who'd haunted my dreams and nightmares in equal measure. Tall, devastatingly handsome, with dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble. Sharp cheekbones, a jaw that could cut glass, and those eyes, those impossible dark eyes that had once looked at me like I was the only thing in his world that mattered. But it wasn't just him. 2 men flanked him like shadows. One was built like a mountain, with a scar running down his left cheek. The other was leaner, but no less dangerous, his hand resting casually near his hip in a way that made my stomach clench. Bodyguards. Of course. Because Dante Moretti didn't go anywhere without protection. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than I'd make in a year, tailored perfectly to his broad shoulders. A Rolex caught the light on his wrist. Everything about him screamed money, power, danger. He looked like he'd stepped out of one of those sleek black cars I'd seen him leave in, the kind with bulletproof windows and drivers who knew how to make problems disappear. This was wrong. This was all wrong. Dante didn't eat at places like Mel's. He had private chefs, exclusive restaurants, penthouses with views that made my tiny apartment look like a shoebox. What was he doing here, in this greasy spoon on the edge of nowhere? His eyes met mine. The world tilted. I watched recognition hit him like a physical blow. His entire body went rigid. Those dark eyes widened, then dropped, inevitably, inexorably, to my stomach. To the massive swell of my belly that my uniform couldn't hide, that nothing could hide anymore. The coffee pot slipped from my nerveless fingers. It shattered against the linoleum floor in an explosion of glass and scalding liquid. The crash echoed through the sudden silence. Everyone was staring now. Mel poked his head through the kitchen window. The mountain of a bodyguard's hand moved closer to his weapon, but I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Couldn't do anything except stand there, frozen, as Dante's face transformed from shock to something else. Something darker, more possessive, more dangerous. Sophia. My name on his lips was a caress and a threat. His voice, God, his voice, rolled over me like smoke and whiskey, rich and dark and utterly commanding. The same voice that had whispered promises in the dark. The same voice that had given orders I'd later learned ended in blood. He took a step toward me. I took a step back, my sneaker crunching on broken glass. No. The word came out smaller than I intended, weaker. I hated how my voice shook, how my hands trembled as I pressed them protectively over my belly. The baby kicked again, as if sensing my distress. Dante's jaw tightened. His eyes, those eyes that missed nothing, tracked every detail. The faded uniform, the duct-taped shoes, the way I stood slightly hunched, favoring my left side where my back ached the worst. The dark circles. The exhaustion I couldn't hide. Something flickered across his face. Fury, maybe, or pain. With Dante, it was always hard to tell. He kept his emotions locked behind walls of steel, only letting me see what he wanted me to see. You're pregnant. Not a question, a statement. Flat, controlled. But I heard the storm beneath it. I lifted my chin, found some fragment of the pride I used to have. Observant. How long? Does it matter? How long, Sophia? Each word was precise, clipped. The tone he used when giving orders to his men, the tone that made hardened criminals flinch. 7 months. The truth escaped before I could stop it. I watched him do the math, watched the exact moment he realized. His hands clenched into fists at his sides. A muscle jumped in his jaw. The mountain bodyguard shifted nervously. Even he could sense the danger radiating off Dante like heat from a furnace. Mine. Another statement. Absolute. Unquestionable. Is it mine? His voice dropped to something lethal. Every instinct screamed at me to lie, to protect myself, protect this baby from the world Dante lived in. A world of violence and blood money, of enemies and betrayals, of secrets that killed. But I'd never been good at lying to him. He'd always been able to see right through me. Yes. The word barely made it past my lips. The temperature in the diner plummeted. Dante went absolutely still, the kind of stillness that came before an explosion. His eyes turned to black ice. You've been carrying my child for 7 months and you didn't tell me? I left for a reason, Dante. What reason could possibly? You killed someone. My voice cracked on the words. I saw you. I saw what you did to Marco. Marco. His former associate. The man who'd stolen from him, betrayed him. I'd walked into Dante's warehouse looking for him, wanting to surprise him with the news that I was pregnant. Instead, I'd found him standing over Marco's broken body, blood on his knuckles, death in his eyes. I'd run. Packed a bag and disappeared into the night, taking nothing but the clothes on my back and the baby growing inside me. I'd thought I'd been careful, thought I'd covered my tracks, but Dante Moretti didn't let go of what belonged to him. And I had just confirmed that this baby, his baby, belonged to him too. We need to talk. He took another step closer. We have nothing to talk about. I bent down, wincing at the pull in my lower back, and started picking up the larger pieces of broken glass. My hands shook so badly the shards rattled against each other. Sophia, you need to leave. I didn't look at him. Couldn't. If I looked at him, I'd remember. I'd remember what it felt like to be loved by Dante Moretti, to be cherished, protected, worshipped, before I'd learned the price of that protection. I'm not leaving without you. The certainty in his voice made my blood run cold. This was why I'd run. This absolute conviction that he owned me, that I was his to command, his to keep. Dante didn't ask. He took. He claimed. He possessed. Mel appeared with a mop and dustpan. Everything okay here, Sophia? I opened my mouth to say no, to ask him to call the police. But what would I say? That my ex-boyfriend was a mafia boss? That I was carrying his baby? That I'd witnessed a murder? Dante's eyes never left mine. We're fine. My fiancé just had a little accident. I'm here to take her home. Fiancé? The word burst out of me. We have a lot to discuss. His tone was steel wrapped in silk. Then, to Mel, I'll pay for the damages, and for her time. She won't be coming back. Now wait just a minute, Mel started. The lean bodyguard pulled out a wallet, Dante's wallet, and counted out several $100 bills. More money than I made in a month. He placed them on the counter with the kind of finality that ended arguments. Mel looked at the money, looked at me, looked at Dante's cold, implacable expression. Well, if that's what the lady wants? It's not, I said desperately. Dante, you can't just what? He moved closer, until I could smell him. Expensive cologne, leather. Something darker underneath, gunpowder maybe. Danger. Can't take care of my pregnant girlfriend? Can't ensure my child is safe? Can't protect what's mine? I'm not yours anymore. His hand came up, and I flinched before I could stop myself. But he didn't touch me. Just hovered there, his fingers inches from my face, trembling with restraint. You were always mine, cara mia. You just forgot for a while, but you're carrying my baby, my heir. Do you really think I'm going to let you waste away in this shithole, working yourself to death? The worst part was the concern in his voice. Real, genuine concern. Dante had always been able to do that. Make his obsession sound like love. Make his possessions sound like protection. I can take care of myself. His eyes raked over me again, taking in every detail of my exhaustion, clearly. The word cut deeper than any knife. Because he was right. I was barely surviving. Working double shifts, living in a room above a laundromat, eating ramen for dinner. The baby deserved better. I deserved better. But better didn't come from a man whose hands were stained with blood. Dante, please. I hated the plea in my voice. Just go. Not without you. He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. My car will be here in 2 minutes. You can walk out with me now, with dignity, or I can carry you out. Your choice, Sophia, but either way, you're coming home with me. And this is kidnapping. This is protecting my family. His voice dropped to something almost tender. Almost. You can hate me tomorrow. Tonight you need rest, food, medical care. Look at yourself. When was the last time you slept? Really slept? Tears burned behind my eyes. I was so tired. So unbearably, impossibly tired. And the baby was kicking again, a fluttering reminder of the life I was responsible for. The life that deserved more than I could give. One night, I heard myself say, I'll come with you for one night. Get some rest. Then we talk about this like adults. The smile that curved Dante's lips was pure victory. He knew, just as well as I did, that one night would turn into 2, then 3, then forever, because Dante Moretti never let go. The diner door opened, and another man entered, older, silver-haired, wearing a suit nearly as expensive as Dante's. He nodded respectfully. The car is ready, sir. Good. Dante's hand finally made contact, settling possessively on the small of my aching back. The touch sent electricity racing up my spine, and I hated my body for remembering, for wanting. Let's go home, amore mio. I let him guide me toward the door, past the staring customers, past Mel's confused expression. The night air hit me like a wall when we stepped outside, thick and heavy with the promise of rain. A black SUV idled at the curb, bulletproof windows just like I'd imagined. The driver opened the back door. Dante handed me in like I was made of glass, his touch gentle despite the steel beneath it. The leather seats were soft, so much softer than anything I'd touched in months. Climate-controlled air kissed my overheated skin. Dante slid in beside me, close enough that our thighs touched. The door closed with a heavy, final thunk. The SUV pulled smoothly into traffic. I'd escaped Dante Moretti once. But looking at his profile in the darkness, at the possessive set of his jaw, and the protective way his hand had already moved to rest on my swollen belly, I knew with absolute certainty I would never escape him again. The penthouse was exactly as I remembered it, and nothing like I remembered it at all. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, a glittering sprawl of lights that looked almost beautiful from this height. Almost innocent. Like you couldn't see the rot underneath, the violence that kept those lights burning. The furniture was modern and expensive, all clean lines and muted colors. Everything pristine, everything perfect, everything a cage. I stood in the living room, feeling monumentally out of place in my stained uniform and taped-together shoes. The baby kicked, a rolling movement across my entire belly, and I winced. My back was screaming now, the dull ache that had been building all day, sharpening into something that stole my breath. Dante was on his phone, speaking rapid Italian to someone. His voice was clipped, authoritative. Every inch the boss. The mountain bodyguard, I'd heard Dante call him Luca, stood by the door like a sentinel. The lean one had disappeared somewhere into the depths of the penthouse. I should run. I should make a break for the elevator, try to get away while Dante was distracted. But my feet hurt, my back hurt, everything hurt, and the leather couch looked so soft, so inviting. When was the last time I'd sat on something that wasn't held together with duct tape and prayers? Sit down before you fall down, Dante's voice cut through my thoughts. He'd ended his call, was watching me with those dark, unreadable eyes. You're swaying. I'm fine. You're exhausted. He crossed to me in 3 long strides, his hand cupping my elbow. The touch was gentle but firm, guiding me toward the couch whether I wanted to go or not. Sit. Now. I wanted to argue, wanted to maintain some shred of independence. But my knees buckled the moment I tried to lower myself onto the cushions, and suddenly Dante's hands were on my waist, supporting me, easing me down with a care that made my throat tight. When did you last eat? He demanded. I had breakfast. It's past midnight. Try again. I looked away. The truth was, I'd had half a stale bagel around noon. Money was tight. Food was expensive. I'd been saving every penny for when the baby came, for diapers and formula and all the things I'd need. Dante's jaw clenched. Cristo, you're starving yourself. I'm managing. You're 7 months pregnant and working night shifts at a diner. That's not managing, Sophia. That's... He bit off whatever he was going to say, visibly controlling himself. Luca, have Maria prepare something. Soup, pasta, something easy on the stomach. And get Dr. Russo on the phone. Tell him I need him here within the hour. I don't need a doctor, I protested. You haven't had prenatal care in 7 months. I've been to a clinic. The free one on... A free clinic? His voice dropped to something dangerous. You've been taking my child to a free clinic? Your child? The words came out sharper than I intended. You didn't even know about this baby until 2 hours ago. You don't get to waltz back into my life and start making demands. I have every right. You have no rights. I struggled to my feet, ignoring the way my vision swam. I left because of what you are, Dante. What you do. I won't raise a child in that world. He moved closer, crowding into my space, not touching, but close enough that I could feel the heat radiating off him. Close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. What world is that exactly? The world where you have a roof over your head, food in your stomach, medical care, protection. The world where people die, Dante, where you kill them with your bare hands. Something flickered in his expression. Pain, maybe, or regret. But it was gone too quickly to be sure. Marco betrayed the family. He knew the consequences. He was a person, a human being. He was a traitor who would have gotten us all killed. Dante's hand came up, cupping my face with a gentleness that contradicted the steel in his voice. You think I wanted you to see that? You think I wanted you anywhere near that part of my life? I kept you separate for a reason. Kept me ignorant, you mean. Kept you safe. His thumb brushed across my cheekbone, and I hated the way I leaned into the touch. 7 months hadn't been long enough to forget how good his hands felt on my skin. Do you have any idea what would have happened if my enemies knew about you? If they'd discovered you were pregnant? Ice slid down my spine. I hadn't thought about that. Hadn't considered that running might have put the baby in more danger, not less. Exactly. He read my expression like a book. You disappeared without a word. No protection. No security. Nothing. Do you know how many sleepless nights I've had, wondering if you were alive or dead? If someone had found you and used you to get to me? You didn't try to find me. His laugh was bitter. I had every resource at my disposal looking for you, every contact, every favor owed. You're good at hiding, cara mia, better than I gave you credit for, but not good enough. Not anymore. The implication hung in the air between us. He'd found me now, and he wasn't letting go. A woman appeared from the kitchen. Maria, I assumed. She was in her 50s, with kind eyes and silver-streaked hair pulled back in a neat bun. She carried a tray laden with food, steaming minestrone, fresh bread, a glass of milk. "For the signora," she said, setting the tray on the coffee table. Her eyes softened when they landed on my belly. "You need to eat, dear. For the bambino." The smell of the soup made my stomach clench with sudden, overwhelming hunger. When was the last time I'd had a real meal? Something hot and homemade and not from a microwave. Dante guided me back to the couch, his hand firm on my lower back. "Eat. We'll talk after." I wanted to refuse, wanted to maintain my pride, my independence, but the baby was doing gymnastics in my belly, and my hands were trembling as I reached for the spoon. The first taste was heaven, rich and savory, with vegetables and pasta and probably more calories than I'd consumed in a week. I tried to eat slowly, tried to maintain some dignity, but I was so hungry, so desperately hungry, that I found myself devouring it like a starving animal. Dante watched me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Satisfaction, maybe, or possessiveness. With him, it was usually both. "Better?" he asked when I'd finished. I nodded, not trusting my voice. The warmth of the food was spreading through me, making me realize just how cold I'd been, how tired, how close to breaking. Maria cleared the tray with a soft smile, then disappeared back into the kitchen. Luca had vanished too, leaving us alone in the vast living room. The city lights twinkled beyond the windows, indifferent to the drama playing out in this gilded tower. "Dr. Russo will be here soon," Dante said, settling onto the couch beside me. Not touching, but close. Always close. "He's the best obstetrician in the city. He'll examine you, make sure everything is okay with the baby. I told you I've been getting care at a free clinic." His voice was flat. "Where they probably saw you for 5 minutes and sent you on your way. That's not good enough. Not for you. Not for my child. His child." He kept saying that, staking his claim with words, with proximity, with the sheer force of his presence. "Why does it matter so much?" The question slipped out before I could stop it. "You have everything. Money, power, respect. Why do you care about one baby?" The look he gave me could have melted steel. "Because it's our baby, yours and mine, a piece of both of us." His hand moved to my belly, settling there with a possessiveness that made my breath catch. "And because I've spent 7 months thinking you were gone forever, 7 months in hell, wondering if I'd ever see you again. And now you're here, carrying my heir, and you think I'm going to let you walk away again." The baby kicked against his palm. I watched Dante's eyes widen, then soften with something that looked almost like wonder. "Did you feel that?" His voice was hushed, reverent. "It's been doing that all day." I tried to sound annoyed, but the truth was, sharing this moment with him felt right in a way that terrified me. "Gets more active at night, like his father." A small smile tugged at Dante's lips. "It's a boy?" "I don't know. Couldn't afford the ultrasound." The smile vanished. His hand tightened on my belly, protective and possessive in equal measure. "That changes now. Tonight. You'll have everything you need, everything you should have had from the beginning." "Dante." "No arguments, Sophia. You're done living in poverty, done working yourself to death, done pretending you don't need me." His other hand cupped my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. "I failed you. I let you see something you should never have seen, and I drove you away. But I won't fail our child. I won't fail you again. You can't just make this all go away with money and pretty words. Watch me." The doorbell chimed, a soft melodic sound that seemed absurdly civilized given the tension crackling between us. Luca reappeared to answer it, and moments later a distinguished-looking man in his 60s entered, carrying a medical bag. "Dr. Russo." Dante stood, shaking the man's hand. "Thank you for coming on such short notice." Of course, Mr. Moretti. The doctor's eyes found me, professional and kind. And this must be the young lady. How are you feeling, my dear? Tired, I admitted, achy. Perfectly normal at 7 months. But let's have a look, shall we? Mr. Moretti, if you could give us some privacy. No. Dante's voice was absolute. I stay. Dr. Russo glanced at me, questioning. I should have said yes. Should have used this opportunity to speak privately with the doctor, but part of me, the traitorous, exhausted part that remembered what it was like to be loved by Dante Moretti, wanted him there. It's fine, I heard myself say. The examination was thorough. Dr. Russo checked my blood pressure, listened to the baby's heartbeat, measured my belly. His frown deepened as he worked. Your blood pressure is elevated, he said finally. Not dangerously so, but higher than I'd like, and you're underweight for this stage of pregnancy. Have you been experiencing any swelling in your hands or feet? Some, I admitted, especially after long shifts. Long shifts? His eyebrows rose. What kind of work have you been doing? She's a waitress, Dante said, his voice tight. Was a waitress. That's over now. Dr. Russo nodded slowly. I'm going to recommend bed rest for the remainder of your pregnancy. Light activity only. No stress, no physical labor. And you need to gain weight. At least 10 pounds before delivery. Bed rest? Panic fluttered in my chest. I can't afford. Money is not an issue, Dante interrupted. Whatever she needs, whatever the baby needs, cost is irrelevant. The doctor pulled out a prescription pad, scribbling notes. Prenatal vitamins. High quality, not the generic kind. Iron supplements. I want to see you twice a week for monitoring. And I'm going to schedule an ultrasound for tomorrow morning at my office. We need to check on the baby's development, make sure everything is progressing normally. Tomorrow morning. As if I was staying here, as if I'd already surrendered. But where else could I go? Back to my room above the laundromat? Back to working double shifts while my blood pressure climbed and the baby suffered? Dr. Russo packed up his bag, gave Dante a long look laden with meaning, then left with promises to return in a few days. Luca showed him out, leaving Dante and me alone again in the too-quiet penthouse. You need rest, Dante said. Come, I'll show you to your room. My room? Did you think I'd make you share mine? Something flashed in his eyes. Hurt, maybe. I know you're not ready for that. Not yet. But you're staying here, Sophia, in comfort, in safety, where I can make sure you and the baby are taken care of. He helped me to my feet, his hand steady on my elbow. We walked down a hallway lined with expensive art, past closed doors that probably led to rooms I'd never see. He stopped at the last door, pushed it open. The bedroom was gorgeous, enormous bed with crisp white linens, windows overlooking the city, a door that I assumed led to a private bathroom. Everything clean and beautiful, and utterly foreign to the life I'd been living. There are clothes in the closet, Dante said. I had Maria purchase some things when I saw you were pregnant. Maternity clothes, comfortable, everything in your size. I stared at him. You bought me maternity clothes, tonight? I made a call. Money talks. He moved to the dresser, pulling out soft-looking pajamas. These should fit. The bathroom is through there, fully stocked with anything you might need. Towels, toiletries, everything. The implications of his words settled over me like a heavy blanket. You were planning this, before you even found me. You were going to bring me here. I've been looking for you for 7 months, cara mia. Of course I was planning for when I found you. He set the pajamas on the bed, then turned to face me fully. This is where you belong, with me. Safe. Protected. Trapped. Cherished. He closed the distance between us, his hands framing my face with a tenderness that made my eyes burn. I know you're scared. I know you hate what I am, what I do. But I love you, Sophia. I've loved you from the moment you walked into my life. And I will burn this entire city down before I let anything happen to you or our child. That's not love, Dante. That's obsession. With you, amore mio, they're the same thing. He pressed his forehead to mine, and I could feel him trembling, actually trembling. Stay. Please. Just give me a chance to prove I can be what you need, what our baby needs. I should say no, should fight this, but I was so tired, and he was so warm, and the bed looked so soft. 1 week, I whispered. I'll stay for 1 week. If I'm not happy, if I can't do this, you let me go. You let us go. It was a lie, and we both knew it. Dante Moretti didn't let go, ever. But he nodded anyway, playing along with the fiction. 1 week. I'll prove to you that this is where you belong. He kissed my forehead, chaste, gentle, then left, closing the door softly behind him. I stood in the beautiful bedroom, my hand on my belly, feeling the baby move beneath my palm. Outside, thunder rumbled. The storm that had been threatening all night was finally breaking, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just made a deal with the devil himself. I woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of fresh coffee drifting under the door. For a moment, I didn't remember where I was. Then it all came rushing back. The diner, Dante, the penthouse. I'd fallen asleep almost the moment my head hit the pillow, too exhausted to even shower. Now, morning light painted the room in shades of gold, and my body felt marginally more human than it had in weeks. The baby was quiet for once, a small mercy. I ran my hand over my belly, feeling the firm swell beneath the borrowed pajamas. They fit perfectly. Soft cotton that didn't pinch or bind. Even the elastic waistband was comfortable. A knock at the door made me tense. "Come in," I called, half expecting Dante, but it was Maria who entered, carrying another tray. This one held a feast: scrambled eggs, toast, fresh fruit, orange juice, and that coffee I'd smelled. "Good morning, signora. Mr. Moretti asked me to bring you breakfast." "You don't have to call me that," I said, struggling to sit up. The bed was so soft I'd practically sunk into it. "Sophia is fine," she smiled, setting the tray on the bedside table. "As you wish. But, Mr. Moretti was quite clear about making sure you eat well. He's very concerned about you and the baby." "Where is he?" "Taking calls in his office. He's been up since dawn." She moved to the windows, drawing back the curtains fully. The city sprawled below us, looking almost clean in the morning light. "He wanted me to tell you that your appointment with Dr. Russo is at 10 o'clock. The car will be ready whenever you are." The ultrasound. I'd almost forgotten. My hand moved protectively to my belly again. "Thank you, Maria." She paused at the door. "If I may say, Signo, Sophia, it's good you're here. I've worked for Mr. Moretti for 5 years. I've never seen him the way he was these past months. Like a man haunted. Whatever happened between you, he loves you very much." She left before I could respond. And I was glad. Because what could I say? That love from a man like Dante was a double-edged sword? That being cherished by someone capable of such violence terrified me? I ate slowly, savoring every bite. The eggs were perfectly cooked, the fruit fresh and sweet, real food, prepared with care. Not the cheap ramen and stale bagels I'd been surviving on. After breakfast, I finally allowed myself to explore the bathroom. It was larger than my entire apartment had been. All marble and gleaming fixtures. The shower had multiple heads and looked like something from a spa. Bottles of expensive shampoo and conditioner lined the shelves. Brands I'd only ever seen in magazines. I spent longer in the shower than necessary, letting the hot water ease the constant ache in my back. When I finally emerged, wrapped in a towel that was softer than anything I'd ever touched, I found the closet Maria had mentioned. It was full. Maternity dresses, soft sweaters, comfortable pants with elastic waistbands. Everything in my size, like Dante had said. I ran my fingers over the fabrics. Quality materials, expensive brands. Each piece probably cost more than I made in a week. I chose a simple navy dress that flowed over my belly without clinging, paired with comfortable flats. The mirror showed me a different woman than the one who'd worked at Mel's diner. Clean, rested, almost normal. Almost. Another knock. This time, when I called out, Dante entered. He'd changed since last night, dark slacks, a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. Casual for him, but still immaculately put together. His eyes swept over me, taking in the dress, the way I'd pulled my damp hair back. "You look better," he said. "Did you sleep?" "Like the dead." The words came out before I could think, and I winced at the unintended irony. His mouth tightened, but he didn't comment. "The car is ready. We should leave soon if we want to make the appointment." "Dante, about last night, We'll talk after. He moved closer, his hand settling on my lower back in a gesture that was becoming familiar, possessive, protective. Right now, I want to make sure my child is healthy. That's all that matters. His child, not our child. The distinction stung more than it should have. The drive to Dr. Russo's office was silent. Dante sat beside me in the back of the SUV, Luca driving, another bodyguard in the passenger seat. The city rolled past the tinted windows, people going about their normal lives, unaware of the dangerous man riding through their streets. Dante's hand found mine, threading our fingers together. I should have pulled away, should have maintained some distance, but his touch was warm, solid, and part of me, the part that remembered loving him, craved it. Dr. Russo's office was in an exclusive medical building, the kind with marble floors and original art on the walls. We were ushered past the waiting room into a private suite. No waiting, no forms to fill out, just immediate, personalized attention. Good morning. Dr. Russo greeted us with a warm smile. Ready to see your baby? My throat tightened. In 7 months, I'd never had a real ultrasound. The free clinic had used a portable device that gave me only the most basic information, that the baby was alive, that there was a heartbeat. But this was different. The exam room had state-of-the-art equipment. Dr. Russo had me lie back on the table, helped me position my dress to expose my belly. The gel was cold, making me gasp. Dante stood beside me, his hand finding mine again. I felt his tension, saw the way his jaw was clenched tight. Then, Dr. Russo pressed the wand to my belly, and the screen flickered to life, there. A tiny person, arms, legs, a head, moving, shifting, real in a way that made my heart clench. There's your baby, Russo said, his voice warm. Good, strong heartbeat. Let me take some measurements. I couldn't look away from the screen, from the miracle of this life I'd been carrying, feeling kick and roll, but never truly seeing until now. Would you like to know the sex? Dr. Russo asked. I glanced at Dante. His eyes were fixed on the screen, and there was something in his expression I'd never seen before. Awe, wonder, fear. Yes, he said, his voice rough. Please. Dr. Russo moved the wand, angling it carefully. Congratulations. You're having a son. A son. A boy. I was going to have Dante's son. I felt Dante's hand tighten on mine, saw him swallow hard. A son, he repeated like he couldn't quite believe it. Everything looks good, Dr. Russo continued, taking measurements, checking various angles. Baby is measuring right on track. Heart, lungs, kidneys, all developing normally. Though I do want to keep monitoring your blood pressure, Sophia. And I want you to continue with the bed rest. No exceptions. I understand, I managed. The appointment continued. More measurements, more instructions, prescriptions for vitamins and supplements. Dr. Russo printed out several ultrasound images, handed them to Dante, who studied them like they held the secrets of the universe. When we finally left, stepping back into the sunshine, Dante was quieter than I'd ever seen him. He held the ultrasound images carefully, reverently, as Luca opened the car door. But we didn't go back to the penthouse. Instead, the SUV headed in a different direction, toward the exclusive shopping district. Where are we going? I asked. Shopping. Dante's voice was controlled, but I could hear the undercurrent of emotion beneath it. My son needs things. A nursery. Clothes. Everything. Dante, that's not necessary. It is absolutely necessary. He turned to me, and the intensity in his eyes stole my breath. I've missed 7 months, Sophia. 7 months of doctor's appointments, of feeling him kick, of watching you grow with my child. I can't get that time back, but I can make damn sure that from this moment forward, both of you have everything you could possibly need. We pulled up in front of an upscale baby boutique, the kind of place I'd never dared enter before, where a single onesie probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. The staff recognized Dante immediately, or at least recognized money when they saw it. A beautifully dressed woman in her 40s approached, all professional smiles. Mr. Moretti, welcome. How can we help you today? My partner is pregnant, 7 months. We need everything for a nursery, the best you have. Money is no object. The woman's eyes widened slightly. Then she was all business. Of course. Right this way. We have several premium collections. What followed was surreal. Dante moved through the store with focused intensity, pointing at furniture, cribs, changing tables. The staff scrambled to keep up, pulling items, making notes, discussing delivery options. Dante, this is too much, I protested as he selected what had to be the 5th outfit in a row. It's not enough. He held up a tiny blue onesie with sailboats on it, and something in his expression made my chest ache. He deserves everything, Sophia. Everything I can give him. He needs love, not things. He'll have both. Dante set the onesie aside, turned to me. Let me do this. Let me provide for my family. It's all I know how to do. The vulnerability in his voice undid me. This was the man I'd fallen in love with. The one beneath the violence and the danger. The one who could be gentle when he chose to be. Okay, I whispered. But nothing too excessive. His smile was brief, wry. Too late for that, amore mio. By the time we left, Dante had purchased enough to fill a small warehouse. The boutique promised delivery within 2 days, and Dante had paid extra to have professionals come to the penthouse to set up the nursery. We had lunch at a quiet restaurant, another place where Dante was clearly known, where we were given the best table in a private corner. He ordered for both of us, healthy options with extra protein, and watched to make sure I ate every bite. You're going to make me fat, I said, finishing my second helping of salmon. You're supposed to gain weight, doctor's orders. But there was warmth in his eyes, something almost playful. Besides, you're beautiful. Pregnant or not, the compliment made me flush. I looked away, focusing on my water glass. You can't just charm your way back into my life, Dante. I'm not trying to charm you. I'm trying to take care of you. He reached across the table, covering my hand with his. I know you're scared. I know you think I'm dangerous, and you're right. I am. But never to you. Never to our son. Everything I do, everything I am, it's to protect the people I love. Even if that means killing them, the question came out sharper than I intended. His hand tightened on mine. Marco betrayed the family. He sold information to our enemies that could have gotten 30 people killed, including you, if anyone had known about you. What would you have had me do, Sophia? Let him walk away. Let him put more lives at risk. There had to be another way. In my world, there isn't. His voice was flat, final. I don't expect you to understand. I don't even want you to understand. But I need you to accept that this is who I am, what I am. And I will do whatever it takes to keep you and our son safe. The weight of his words settled over the table like a physical presence. This was the choice, then. Accept Dante completely, the good and the terrible, or walk away. Leave this life of safety and comfort and return to struggling alone. But was it even a choice anymore? Looking at his face, at the absolute certainty in his eyes, I knew he'd never let me go. 1 week, 1 month, 1 year. It didn't matter. Dante Moretti had decided I was his, and what Dante decided became reality. I want to see where you work, I said suddenly. The legitimate businesses, not the other things. But I want to understand what you do during the day. Surprise flickered across his face. Why? Because if I'm going to stay, if I'm going to raise our son in this world, I need to know all of it. Not just the pretty parts you show me. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. All right. This afternoon, I'll show you. We left the restaurant and drove to a high-rise office building in the financial district. Dante owned the top 3 floors. Legitimate import-export businesses, real estate holdings, investment firms. All perfectly legal, all generating massive profits. His office was impressive. More windows, more expensive furniture, a desk that probably cost more than a car. But what struck me was how natural he looked here, in a suit, making deals, reviewing contracts. This was the man the world saw, successful, powerful, legitimate. Most of what I do is legal, he said, sitting on the edge of his desk while I settled into one of the leather chairs. My back was aching again, and he noticed immediately, his brow furrowing with concern. The other aspects, they're necessary. protection, territory, making sure the people who work for me, who depend on me, stay safe. The Mafia, I said bluntly. La Familia, he corrected. Family. It's not what you see in movies, Sophia. It's about loyalty, honor, taking care of our own, and killing people who betray that loyalty. His jaw tightened. When necessary. Yes. We stared at each other across the expensive office. Outside, the city hummed with oblivious life. I can't be part of that, I said finally. The violence. I can't. I won't expose our son to that. You won't have to. Dante moved closer, crouching in front of my chair so we were eye level. That part of my life stays separate. You and the baby, you'll be protected from all of it. I swear it. You can't promise that, not completely. I can, and I will. His hands found my belly again, that possessive, protective touch. He's going to grow up safe, loved. He'll have the best education, the best opportunities. He'll never want for anything, except a father who isn't a criminal. The words hung in the air between us, brutal and honest. Dante's face hardened. I am what I am, Sophia. I won't apologize for it. But I will be a good father. I will love him, protect him, die for him if necessary. Can you say the same for the men you met at that diner? The ones who looked at you like you were nothing? He had a point, and I hated him for it. I need time, I said, to think, to process all of this. You have 1 week. That was our agreement. He stood helping me to my feet, but I'll tell you now, cara mia, by the end of that week, you won't want to leave. Because despite everything, you still love me. I see it in your eyes every time you look at me. Love isn't always enough. With us, it has to be. He pulled me close, his hand cradling the back of my head. Because I'm not letting you go. Not now. Not ever. You and our son. You're mine. And I protect what's mine. The certainty in his voice should have terrified me. Instead, as his arms wrapped around me and I felt the solid strength of him, I felt something else entirely. Safe, protected, cherished. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. 3 days passed in a blur of doctor's appointments, deliveries, and Dante's constant, overwhelming presence. The nursery took shape with frightening speed. Professional designers transformed the room next to Dante's master suite into something from a magazine spread. Soft blues and creams, a crib that looked like a work of art, shelves already filling with books and toys. A rocking chair sat by the window, perfect for late-night feedings and quiet moments. I stood in the doorway, one hand on my aching back, watching the final touches being applied. Dante appeared behind me, his presence a warm weight at my shoulder. "What do you think?" he asked. "It's beautiful." And it was. Perfect. Everything a baby could need. It's too much. Nothing is too much for my son. His hand settled on my belly, a gesture that had become automatic over the past few days. The baby kicked against his palm, and I felt Dante's sharp intake of breath. He still reacted with wonder every time. He's strong, like his father. Or stubborn, like his mother. The ghost of a smile touched Dante's lips. God help me if he inherits your stubbornness. It was the closest we'd come to normalcy. This easy banter, these quiet moments. Almost like we were a real couple preparing for a baby. Almost like the violence and danger didn't exist. But it did. I saw it in the bodyguards who shadowed our every move, in the encrypted phones that rang at all hours, in the way Dante's expression would shudder when he took certain calls, stepping away to conduct business I wasn't supposed to hear. That night, we had dinner together in the penthouse, another routine that had developed. Maria prepared incredible meals, and Dante insisted we eat together, asking about my day, my comfort, the baby's movements, playing house in the most surreal way possible. "I have to go out tonight," he said, as Maria cleared our plates. "Business that can't wait." My stomach clenched. What kind of business? The kind you don't need to worry about. His voice was gentle but firm. "Luca will stay here with you, and there are 3 more men downstairs. You're completely safe." "That's not what I'm worried about." He went still. "Sophia, Are you going to kill someone tonight, Dante? The question came out quietly, but it echoed in the dining room like a gunshot. That's not... He stopped, jaw tightening. I'm going to handle a situation. How I handle it depends on how cooperative certain people are. So maybe you'll kill someone. Maybe I'll prevent my entire operation from being compromised. Maybe I'll save lives by stopping a threat before it becomes a problem. He stood, moving around the table to me. This is my world, cara mia. I won't lie to you about what it involves, but I also won't apologize for doing what's necessary to protect my family. We're not your family. Not really. We're just what? His voice dropped dangerously low. Just the woman I love? Just the child I'd burn the world down to protect? Tell me, Sophia, what exactly are you to me if not my family? I had no answer, because he was right, in his twisted way. This, us, had become something I couldn't define. Not quite love, not quite captivity. Something in between that left me constantly off balance. Dante pressed a kiss to my forehead, lingering there. Get some rest. I'll be back before morning. And Sophia? If anything happens, anything at all, Luca has orders to take you somewhere safe. No questions, no hesitation. You're scaring me. Good. Fear keeps you cautious. Cautious keeps you alive. He pulled back, his eyes searching mine. I need you to promise me something. If Luca tells you to move, you move. If he says run, you run. Can you do that? The seriousness in his tone made my pulse spike. What's going on, Dante? What aren't you telling me? Just promise me. I promise. He left with a kiss that felt too much like goodbye, and suddenly the penthouse felt enormous and empty. I retreated to my room, though I'd started thinking of it as our room in my weaker moments, and tried to read. But concentration was impossible. Around 11, the baby started moving restlessly, rolling and kicking with unusual intensity. I paced the room, one hand pressed to my belly, trying to soothe both of us. My back was killing me, a sharp, constant pain that no position seemed to ease. A knock at the door. Luca's gravelly voice. Everything all right, signora? Fine. Just restless. I opened the door, found him standing there with his usual vigilant expression. How long have you worked for Dante? The question seemed to surprise him. 6 years, ma'am. Do you ever worry? About what might happen? Every day. His scarred face was honest, if not comforting. But Mr. Moretti is smart, and he has more reason than ever to come home safe now. His eyes dropped to my belly meaningfully. The baby kicked hard, and I winced. Luca's expression shifted immediately. Are you in pain? Just backache. It's been bad all day. Another sharp kick. This one accompanied by a tightening across my entire belly that made me gasp. Luca's hand went to his phone. I'm calling Dr. Russo. It's just Braxton Hicks. The doctor said they're normal. Another tightening. Stronger this time. Definitely not normal. With respect, signora, you're 7 months pregnant and in pain. We're calling the doctor. Dr. Russo answered on the second ring, listened to Luca's terse description, then asked to speak to me. I described the tightening, the back pain, the baby's restless movements. I want you to come to the hospital, he said, his voice calm but serious. It could be nothing, but given your elevated blood pressure and the stress you've been under, I'd rather be cautious. Can you get here within the hour? Yes, but no arguments, my dear. Better safe than sorry. Luca was already on another phone, barking orders. Within minutes, the SUV was ready. 2 additional cars flanking us. A full security detail. I felt ridiculous, being rushed to the hospital for what was probably nothing. But Luca's grim efficiency left no room for protest. We were halfway to the hospital when Luca's phone rang. He answered in rapid Italian, his expression darkening with each word. Then to the driver. Faster, now. What's wrong? My heart was pounding. Mr. Moretti's meeting was a setup. There was gunfire. He was already dialing another number. He's okay, he added quickly, seeing my face, but the situation is hot. We need to get you secured. Gunfire. Setup. The words swirled in my head as another contraction, because that's what they were, I realized with growing panic, tightened across my belly. We pulled up to the hospital's private entrance. Luca had me out of the car and inside before I could fully process what was happening. Dr. Russo was waiting, his face professionally calm, but I could see the concern in his eyes. "Let's get you examined," he said, guiding me toward the elevator. The examination room felt too bright, too cold. Dr. Russo worked quickly, checking my blood pressure, elevated, monitoring the baby's heart rate, fast but steady, examining me internally. "You're in early labor," he said finally. "Not active yet, but your body is preparing. The stress likely triggered it, but I'm only 7 months. It's too early. The baby is measuring well. If we can't stop the labor, he has an excellent chance, but we're going to try to delay it as long as possible." He was already calling for medication, for monitors. "I'm admitting you. Complete bed rest. We'll give you steroids to help the baby's lungs develop, medication to try to stop the contractions." Everything became a blur of activity. Nurses hooking me up to monitors, IVs being inserted, the steady beep 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 of the baby's heartbeat filling the room. Luca positioned himself by the door like a sentinel, his hand never far from his weapon. "Mr. Moretti is on his way," he told me. "He'll be here soon." I wanted to ask if Dante was hurt, if he was safe, but another contraction stole my breath. They were getting stronger, closer together. The medication was supposed to stop them, but my body didn't seem to be listening. "Doctor." Russo's frown deepened. "The contractions aren't responding to the medication. We may need to prepare for delivery." "No, it's too early. He needs more time. He needs to be born healthy, which means we deliver if your body decides it's time." His voice was kind but firm. "Let's see how the next hour goes." That hour was the longest of my life. Contractions came and went. The baby's heartbeat dipped and recovered. Nurses whispered outside my door, and through it all, Luca stood guard, stone-faced and ready for threats I couldn't see. Then the door burst open. Dante filled the doorway and my heart nearly stopped. His shirt was torn. Blood splattered across the white fabric. Not his blood, I realized with nauseous certainty. His knuckles were raw and bruised. But his eyes, God, his eyes were wild with fear. "Sophia." He was across the room in 3 strides, his hands framing my face. "Cristo, are you all right? Is the baby?" "We're okay. Labor started, but they're trying to stop it." Another contraction cut me off, and I gripped his hand hard enough that my knuckles went white. Dante's face drained of color. "Labor? But it's too early. You can't. Mr. Moretti." Dr. Russo's voice was calm, authoritative. "Your son is strong. If he comes tonight, we're prepared, but we're doing everything we can to give him more time. Whatever you need, specialists, equipment. Transfer her to a better hospital. This is the best hospital in the state, and I'm one of the best perinatologists in the country." Dr. Russo's voice held just a hint of steel. "Your money can't fix this, Mr. Moretti. Now either sit down and support your partner, or leave so she can rest." The rebuke seemed to shock Dante into stillness. Then he pulled a chair to my bedside, sank into it, and captured my hand with both of his. The blood on his shirt left smears on my skin. "I'm here," he said, his voice rough. "I'm not going anywhere. Whatever happens, we face it together. You're bleeding. Not my blood. Don't worry about it." He raised my hand to his lips, pressed a kiss to my knuckles. "Just focus on staying calm, on the baby. Everything else can wait." But I could see the tension in his shoulders. The way his eyes kept darting to the door. Something had happened tonight. Something bad. And now I was in labor, vulnerable, and Dante was clearly terrified in a way I'd never seen before. "What happened at your meeting?" I asked during a break between contractions. His jaw tightened. "Ambush. They knew I was coming. Someone sold information." His eyes were black with fury. "But they underestimated us. We got out." "Did anyone?" "Yes." The single word was brutal in its honesty. "But not my men. We're all alive. They're not." I should have been horrified, should have recoiled from this man whose hands were still stained with violence. But all I felt was relief that he was here, safe, whole. "I was so scared," I whispered. "So was I." His forehead dropped to rest against our joined hands. "When Luca called and said you were in the hospital, I thought, Cristo, I thought I'd lost you both. I've faced down guns, knives, every kind of threat. but nothing has ever terrified me like that call. Another contraction built, this one fiercer than before. I cried out, unable to hold it back. Dante's grip on my hand tightened, his other hand smoothing back my sweat-dampened hair. Breathe, amore mio. Just breathe. I've got you. Dr. Russo examined me again, his expression growing more serious. You're progressing despite the medication. We're looking at delivery within the next few hours. No, please. He needs more time. He needs to be born safely. And right now, that means letting nature take its course. Dr. Russo's voice was gentle. We're moving you to a delivery room. The NICU team is standing by. Your son is going to be fine, Sophia. I promise you. The transfer was a blur. Dante never let go of my hand, walking beside the gurney. His presence the only solid thing in a world that had tilted sideways. The delivery room was bright and filled with equipment, with people in scrubs preparing for my son's arrival. My son. Dante's son. Too early. Too small. But fighting to be born anyway. You can do this, Dante murmured against my ear as another contraction hit. You're the strongest person I know. You survived 7 months on your own. You kept our son safe when I couldn't. Now let me be strong for you. The labor intensified. Hours blurred together. Pain, pressure, Dante's voice coaching me through each contraction. Dr. Russo's calm instructions. Somewhere in the chaos, I stopped being scared and started being determined. This baby, our baby, was coming. And I'd be damned if I wasn't strong enough to bring him into this world. One more push, Sophia, Dr. Russo urged. I can see his head. One more. I bore down with everything I had, squeezing Dante's hand hard enough that I heard bones creak. He didn't flinch, didn't complain, just pressed his forehead to mine and breathed with me. And then, a cry. Thin and reedy but unmistakably alive. It's a boy, Dr. Russo announced, though we already knew. 5 pounds, 2 ounces. Small but fighting. I caught a glimpse of him. Tiny, red-faced, squalling with indignation, before the NICU team whisked him away to assess him. Dante's hand shook in mine as he watched our son disappear behind a screen of medical personnel. Is he okay? Dante's voice cracked. Tell me he's okay. He's breathing on his own. Good color. Strong cry. The neonatologist's voice carried over the controlled chaos. We'll need to monitor him closely, but initial signs are very good. I sagged back against the bed, exhausted beyond measure. Dante's hand came up to cup my face, and when I looked at him, I saw tears tracking down his cheeks. You did it, he whispered. Our son, you gave me a son. We have a son, I corrected, my own voice breaking. He kissed me then, soft, reverent, filled with emotion too complex to name. When he pulled back, his eyes held a promise. I will protect him with my life. Both of you. Nothing and no one will ever hurt you again. And looking at his fierce, tear-stained face, I believed him. They let me hold him an hour later. He was so small, impossibly terrifyingly small. Wires and monitors covered his tiny body, tracking every breath, every heartbeat, but his eyes, when they fluttered open, were dark like Dante's, and when I touched his miniature hand, his fingers wrapped around mine with surprising strength. Hello, baby, I whispered, tears streaming down my face. I'm your mama. I'm so sorry you had to come early. But you're going to be okay. We're going to make sure of it. Dante stood beside the incubator, one hand pressed to the glass like he was afraid to touch, afraid his violence-stained hands might somehow taint this perfect, innocent life. The NICU nurse, a kind woman named Patricia, smiled at him. Would you like to hold your son, Mr. Moretti? Dante looked genuinely uncertain, maybe the first time I'd ever seen him unsure of anything. What if I hurt him? You won't. Sit here. She guided him to the chair beside my bed. Support his head. That's it. Nice and gentle. She transferred our son from my arms to Dante's, and I watched something fundamental shift in the man I thought I knew. Dante Moretti, killer, crime lord, the most dangerous man in the city, cradled our tiny son like he was made of spun glass, his hands, so capable of violence, trembled with overwhelming gentleness. "Cristo," he breathed. "He's so small, so perfect." The baby made a soft sound, nestling against Dante's chest. And Dante, hardened, controlled Dante, broke down completely. Silent tears coursed down his face as he stared at our son with absolute wonder. "I swear to you," he whispered to the baby, "I will give you everything, every opportunity, every protection. You will never know fear or hunger or pain. You will be safe, loved. I swear it on my life." My heart twisted, because I heard the promise underneath, that Dante would do anything, become anything, sacrifice anything to keep this child safe, even if it meant more violence, more blood, more darkness. But looking at them together, father and son, connected by something deeper than blood, I couldn't find it in myself to care. Not right now. Not when we'd just barely brought this life into the world. "He needs a name," I said softly. Dante looked up, his eyes still wet. "What about Alessandro, after my grandfather, the only man who ever truly understood what it meant to be family?" "Alessandro. It was beautiful, strong, Italian, like his heritage." "Alessandro Moretti," I tested the name. "What do you think, little one? Do you like it?" The baby, Alessandro, made another soft sound like agreement. "Alessandro it is," Dante confirmed, pressing a kiss to his son's forehead. "Welcome to the family, Piccolo." The NICU required Alessandro to stay for observation. Premature babies needed time, monitoring, care we couldn't provide at home. Dr. Russo assured us he was doing remarkably well, beating every expectation, but they wanted to be cautious, which meant I was discharged 2 days later while my son remained behind. Leaving the hospital without him was the hardest thing I'd ever done. Dante had to practically carry me to the car, my body still recovering, my heart shattering with every step away from the NICU, but Patricia promised we could visit any time, that Alessandro was in the best possible hands. The penthouse felt different when we returned. The nursery that had been prepared with such care sat empty, waiting. I stood in the doorway, staring at the crib that should have held my baby, and finally let myself break down completely. Dante found me there, crumpled on the floor of the nursery, sobbing into my hands. He didn't say anything, just gathered me into his arms and held me while I cried out every fear, every exhausted emotion of the past week. "He's going to come home," Dante murmured into my hair, "strong and healthy. Patricia said maybe 2 weeks. We can do 2 weeks. I want him here. I want him safe. He is safe. He's in the best NICU in the state, with round-the-clock care. And tomorrow we'll go see him. Spend the whole day if you want. I've already cleared my schedule." I pulled back to look at him. "What about your business? The people who ambushed you? Don't you have to deal with that?" His expression hardened. "That's been handled. Permanently. The threat is eliminated, meaning more death, more blood, more of the darkness that followed Dante everywhere. But for once I felt only grim satisfaction. Whoever had attacked him had put Alessandro at risk, had triggered early labor, had endangered my son. Let them be eliminated. The realization of how far I'd fallen, or risen, depending on perspective, should have horrified me. Instead, I just felt tired of fighting the inevitable, tired of pretending Dante wasn't exactly what I needed him to be. "I want to stay," I said quietly. "Not just for a week, not just until Alessandro comes home. I want to stay. With you. Build a life together. For our son." Dante went absolutely still. "You mean that?" I mean, I'm terrified. I don't know if this will work. I still hate what you do, what you are." I touched his face, feeling the roughness of stubble, the warmth of his skin. "But I love you anyway. I've loved you since the moment you walked into that gallery opening and made me laugh when I was supposed to be working. And I love our son. And I think maybe we can make this work. If you promise me something. Anything. Keep the violence away from us. From Alessandro. I don't care what you have to do or who you have to become when you're out there, but when you come home, you leave it at the door. Can you do that?" "Yes." No hesitation. absolute certainty. I already decided. The night you went into labor, when I thought I might lose you both, I realized nothing else matters. My empire, my reputation, my power. It's all meaningless if I don't have you and Alessandro. So yes, I can be two men. The one the world sees, and the one who comes home to you. Then we try. We really try to make this family work. He kissed me then, deep and claiming, and filled with promise. When he pulled back, his eyes held something I'd never seen before. Hope. The next 2 weeks passed in a strange new rhythm. Every morning, we'd drive to the hospital and spend hours in the NICU. I'd hold Alessandro, talk to him, nurse him when he was strong enough. Dante would sit beside us, watching with that expression of wonder that never seemed to fade. Alessandro thrived, gained weight, came off the monitors one by one. Patricia called him a fighter, said she'd rarely seen a preemie do so well so quickly. He gets it from his mother, Dante said, his hand resting on my shoulder as we watched Alessandro sleep. That stubbornness, that strength. At night, we'd return to the penthouse, to the nursery that was slowly filling with life. Photos from the NICU, tiny clothes Alessandro would wear soon, books we'd read to him. Dante worked from home, taking calls and meetings in his office, but never missing our afternoon visits to see our son. And slowly, carefully, we rebuilt what we'd once had. The easy conversation, the comfortable silences, the way Dante's hand would find mine without thinking, the way I'd lean into him instinctively, finding safety in his strength. We didn't share a bed, not yet. That felt too fast, too presumptuous. But some nights, when the empty nursery felt too quiet, I'd find Dante in his office, and he'd pull me onto his lap, and we'd just sit together in the darkness, talking about Alessandro, about our fears and hopes, about the future we were building. "I want to marry you," he said one night, his voice quiet against my hair. "When you're ready, when you're sure. I want you to be my wife, not just my partner. I want Alessandro to grow up seeing his parents committed to each other." "Ask me again in 6 months," I said. "When we've proven we can do this. When Alessandro is home, and we've found our rhythm as a family." 6 months, he agreed. "And then I'm putting a ring on your finger so big you won't be able to lift your hand." I laughed, and it felt good. Natural. Like maybe we really could make this work. Finally, Patricia called with the news we'd been waiting for. "Alessandro is ready to go home." We arrived at the hospital within the hour, both of us vibrating with excitement and terror. Patricia showed us how to properly install the car seat, how to support his head, what warning signs to watch for. Dr. Russo gave us final instructions, prescriptions, follow-up appointments. And then Alessandro was in my arms, freed from wires and monitors, dressed in the tiny outfit Dante had picked out, soft blue with white stars. He looked so much bigger than he had 2 weeks ago. So much stronger. The drive home was the slowest of my life. Dante drove with exaggerated care, taking corners like we were transporting explosives. Every time Alessandro made a sound, we both tensed, checking the mirror to make sure he was okay. When we finally pulled into the underground garage of the penthouse building, Dante turned to look at me, his eyes bright. "Ready to start our life? More than ready." Luca met us at the private elevator, a rare smile on his scarred face when he saw the baby. "Welcome home, young master," he said solemnly. The penthouse had been transformed, flowers everywhere, tasteful arrangements that filled the rooms with color and life. A banner over the nursery door reading, "Welcome home, Alessandro." Maria waiting with tears in her eyes and a feast prepared for celebration. But all I cared about was getting Alessandro settled. We placed him in his crib, finally in his own room, and stood there watching him sleep like he might disappear if we looked away. "I can't believe he's really here," I whispered. "Believe it." Dante's arm came around my waist, pulling me against his side. Our son, our family, our future. That night, after feeding Alessandro and settling him in his bassinet beside my bed, I wasn't ready to have him in another room yet. I finally let myself feel the full weight of what we'd built, this strange, complicated, imperfect family. Dante appeared in my doorway, hesitant. "Can I come in?" "Of course." He crossed to the bassinet, spending a long moment just watching Alessandro sleep. Then he turned to me, his expression vulnerable in a way I'd rarely seen. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for giving me this, for giving me him, for giving me a second chance I probably don't deserve. You deserve to be happy, Dante. Even you." He sat on the edge of my bed, close enough to touch, but not quite touching. "I know you said 6 months before we talk about marriage, but can I ask you something now?" "What?" "Move into my room. Not for that. Just to sleep. I want to wake up next to you. I want to be there when Alessandro wakes up at night. I want us to be a real family in every way." I should have said no, should have maintained boundaries, but looking at this man who'd turned his world upside down for us, who'd proven over and over that he could be gentle when it mattered, I couldn't find a reason to refuse. "Okay," I said, "we'll try it. But Dante, if this doesn't work, if we can't make this family thing work, it will work. Because failure isn't an option, not with you, not with him." He leaned forward, pressing his forehead to mine. "I love you, Sophia. I've loved you since that gallery opening. I loved you when you left. I loved you through 7 months of hell. And I'll love you for the rest of my life. That's not obsession. That's not possession. That's just truth. I love you too," I whispered. "Even when I shouldn't. Even when it's terrifying. I love you." He kissed me then. Soft, sweet, full of promise. And when he pulled back, his smile was the most genuine I'd ever seen. 3 months later, I woke to Alessandro's soft cries and found Dante already at the bassinet, which we'd moved into his bedroom along with me. "Our bedroom now. I've got him," Dante murmured, lifting our son with practiced ease. "Go back to sleep." But I watched instead as Dante settled into the rocking chair by the window, Alessandro cradled against his bare chest. He was humming softly, something Italian I didn't recognize, and our son's cries quieted almost immediately. This was my life now, mornings with Dante and Alessandro. Days spent building routines and finding our rhythm. Evenings when Dante would come home from whatever darkness he'd faced and transform back into the man who read bedtime stories in bad Italian accents and made our son giggle with silly faces. The violence still existed. I'd been naive to think it wouldn't. But Dante kept his promise. He left it at the door. When he was home, he was just a father, just a partner, just the man I'd fallen in love with. "What are you thinking about?" Dante asked, catching me watching. "How far we've come. How different this is from what I imagined. Better or worse?" I looked at my son, healthy and growing, at the man who'd moved heaven and earth to keep us safe, at the life we'd built from the ashes of everything I thought I wanted. "Better," I said honestly. "So much better than I ever imagined." Alessandro let out a satisfied sound, his tiny hand fisted in Dante's chest hair. Dante winced but didn't move, just kept rocking, kept humming, completely content to be held captive by someone who weighed less than 10 pounds. 6 months after that night in the hospital, Dante asked me again. We were in the nursery. Alessandro was sleeping peacefully in his crib, finally in his own room. I'd just finished reading him a story, my voice soft in the twilight. When I turned, Dante was on one knee, a ring box in his hand. "I know we said 6 months," he began. "And it's been 9. But I needed to be absolutely sure, not of how I feel, but that you'd believe me when I said forever. So I'm asking now, Sophia, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving I can be the man you and Alessandro deserve?" The ring was beautiful, a simple diamond, elegant rather than ostentatious. Exactly what I would have chosen. "Yes," I said, tears already falling. "Yes, I'll marry you." He slid the ring onto my finger, then pulled me into his arms. Over his shoulder, I could see Alessandro sleeping peacefully, our perfect son, the best thing we'd ever created together. This wasn't the life I'd planned, wasn't the fairy tale I'd imagined as a girl. but it was real. It was ours. And it was filled with a love so fierce, so protective, so all-consuming that it had survived violence and separation, and every obstacle thrown in its path. Dante Moretti had found me in that diner, broken and pregnant, and running from his world. And somehow, impossibly, we'd built something beautiful from the wreckage. Our son slept in his crib, my ring caught the light from the hallway. And in Dante's arms I finally felt like I'd come home, not to a place, but to the people who made anywhere feel like home, my family.